Have you ever wondered why a single hesitation, a single misstep, can unravel everything you have built? Why men forgive cruelty but never forgive weakness? In this lesson, guided by the wisdom of Niccolò Machiavelli, we shall uncover the harsh truth: power is not lost in battle, but in the moment you reveal your frailty. In the theater of power, men are not judged by their virtues, but by the strength they appear to command. Today, we confront a question that has ruined kings, broken generals, and toppled empires. Why does showing weakness, even once, destroy you forever? In the realm of power, understand this above all else: it is not reality that governs men, but the shadow of reality. Not strength itself, but the illusion of strength. A ruler who commands armies yet appears hesitant will inspire less fear than one who has few soldiers but radiates unshakable confidence. For men are moved not by truth, but by what they believe to be true. Observe carefully. When people look upon a leader, they do not measure him by the weight of his sword, nor by the size of his treasury. They measure him by the certainty he projects. If his words cut with confidence, if his gaze does not tremble, then they believe him invincible. And belief, once planted, grows stronger than any fortress. Consider a prince who ascends the throne with little wealth, little army, and many rivals. In the eyes of the world, he should be weak. Yet if he cloaks himself in the garments of strength, if he speaks with authority, and punishes swiftly those who test him, then whispers will spread among his people. He is strong. He is untouchable. Such whispers build a wall higher than any castle walls, for perception creates loyalty where resources cannot. But reverse the image, and the truth is revealed with cruelty. A mighty ruler, with countless soldiers and overflowing coffers, may still appear fragile if he hesitates in judgment, if he reveals doubt in speech, if his hand trembles when signing decrees. At that moment his strength vanishes, not because it is gone, but because it is no longer believed. His enemies do not fear him, his allies no longer respect him, and his subjects wonder how long before another replaces him. Thus the illusion of weakness becomes more fatal than weakness itself. Men cannot see the inner workings of power. They do not touch the stones of the fortress, nor count the swords in the armory. What they see is the mask of authority. If that mask cracks, if even for an instant they glimpse fear behind the eyes of their ruler, the illusion dissolves. And when the illusion dissolves, power dissolves with it. This is why rulers throughout history have spent more effort on appearances than on reality. They stage triumphs after hollow victories. They cloak defeats in the language of strategy. They display gold even when their coffers are empty, and they command loyalty with feasts, even as famine creeps at the gates. Because perception feeds the people more than bread, and appearances reassure them more than truth. Ask yourself, why do men follow generals into battle? Not because they have inspected the general's supplies or measured his tactics with certainty. They follow because he inspires the belief that he cannot fail. A general who radiates confidence can lead starving soldiers to victory. A general who appears doubtful will lose before the first sword is drawn. Even the smallest gesture can alter perception. A ruler who delays a decision looks indecisive. One who punishes swiftly, even harshly, appears strong. A ruler who speaks often of mercy risks being seen as soft. One who cloaks mercy in strength appears wise. It is not the deed itself that matters, but how the deed is seen. The people care less for justice, less for truth, than for the performance of strength. In courts, in palaces, in markets, the same rule applies. Men will forgive cruelty if it comes with confidence, but they never forgive hesitation. They admire boldness even when it leads to ruin, but despise weakness even when it leads to safety. And so the ruler who governs perception governs all. Remember, this truth is hidden from the many, but appearances are visible to all. Men do not dig deep. They do not question long. They do not weigh carefully. They judge from the surface, and their judgment becomes reality. The prince who understands this wields a weapon more powerful than steel. The power of perception, the strength of illusion. Power is not accumulated like gold, where each coin adds to the last. Power is more fragile, more delicate, like glass carried high above a stone road. One slip, one tremor, and the years spent collecting it shatter in an instant. Men will forget your 1,000 victories, your endless acts of control, but they will never forget the single moment you falter. That one weakness, revealed even for a heartbeat, becomes your true identity in their eyes. Consider the fate of rulers who reigned with unchallenged might, feared by their enemies and honored by their allies, only to make a single misstep, one rash decision, one hesitation in battle, one moment of mercy granted to the wrong man, and their empire begins to unravel. The people do not remember the decades of command, only the day when the mask slipped. From that day forward, every whisper repeats the story, until the weakness grows larger than the strength ever was. Imagine a general who never lost a war in 30 years, his reputation carved into the minds of friend and foe alike. Yet on one fateful day, he hesitates, he misjudges, or worse, he retreats. That single act becomes his legacy. His soldiers, once loyal, begin to doubt. His enemies, once cautious, become bold. His allies, once dependent, begin to distance themselves. His 30 years of dominance vanish, overshadowed by the single moment he appeared uncertain. Such is the cruelty of perception. Weakness is remembered longer than strength. Men admire strength, not because they love it, but because they rely on it. It assures them, it shields them, it convinces them that their loyalty is well placed. But the instant strength wavers, they feel betrayed. They feel deceived for trusting in something that could crack. Their admiration turns to contempt, their loyalty to suspicion, and their fear to defiance. The ruler, once invincible, becomes a wounded beast. And nothing attracts hunters more quickly than the scent of blood. Understand that weakness is louder than strength. Strength must be proven 1,000 times to be believed. Weakness need only be shown once to be remembered forever. Men are blind to your constant victories, for they take them as their natural right. But when you stumble, even briefly, their eyes sharpen. They gather like vultures, circling not for what you are, but for what they believe you have become. This is why a single mistake, a single hesitation is fatal. You may be cruel, you may be deceptive, you may even be unjust, and men will still follow you, for cruelty can be reframed as strength, deception as cunning, and injustice as necessity. But weakness cannot be dressed in noble words. It cannot be painted as strategy. It clings to you like a stain that no time can wash away. Even mercy, if shown without calculation, becomes weakness. If you forgive too easily, men do not see generosity, they see softness. If you hesitate to strike an enemy, men do not see restraint, they see fear. And once the thought of fear enters their minds, it never leaves. They will test you, push you, challenge you, and each new test erodes your command. The smallest gesture, a trembling voice, a delayed decision, an unguarded admission, becomes a story retold endlessly, until it defines you more than all your strength ever did. History itself is a graveyard of rulers destroyed not by armies, not by conspiracies, but by a single slip, a single night of doubt, a single gesture of weakness. The chronicles do not remember their countless triumphs, only the instant they appeared vulnerable. The world rewrites their legacy around that failure, and it becomes impossible to escape. Understand, then, that weakness is not merely a crack in the armor. It is the invitation for every hidden dagger to strike. Your enemies wait patiently, sometimes for years, for the one moment you falter. And when it comes, they waste no time. They do not forgive, they do not hesitate, they do not allow you to recover. For a ruler is like a mountain. As long as it stands tall, men respect it. But once it begins to crumble, the rocks fall faster than they can be rebuilt. Power is not lost in silence, nor in secrecy. It is lost the very moment your enemies sense hesitation. For men who once crouched in the shadows, afraid of your strength, will spring forth the instant they see you stumble. Weakness does not remain alone. It breeds, it multiplies, and every rival, every traitor, every discontented ally will take it as their signal to strike. Consider this while you stand firm. Your enemies are divided. They are cautious, hesitant, unwilling to test the wrath of a ruler who seems untouchable. Each man, though he may plot in his mind, postpones action out of fear. But the second you falter, the second you show that you are not the immovable mountain, but a man like any other, their caution dissolves. Rivals who once mistrusted one another will now join together, bound by the scent of opportunity. Weakness is the bond that unites them, and your fall becomes their common ambition. One moment of faltering is like blood in the water. The sea may have held predators all along, circling silently beneath the surface, but the instant that blood touches the waves, the feeding frenzy begins. Your enemies, who for years restrained themselves, who whispered only in corners, suddenly raise their voices in the open. They form alliances, they gather courage, and their ambitions swell. They do not merely test you, they conspire to devour you whole. This is why weakness is never contained. It spreads outward faster than fire, consuming all the respect you have built. One nobleman dares to question you, then another, until the court itself is emboldened. One rival dares to raise his sword, then another, until rebellion becomes a chorus. Enemies that once feared you separately now stand together, encouraged by your single falter. And the cruelest truth is this: had you remained firm, they would never have dared. Understand that your enemies are never truly dormant. They are always watching, measuring, waiting for their chance. Some are open in their disdain, but many are disguised as allies, as friends, even as servants. They bide their time, because to strike too soon is to invite destruction. But weakness, even the smallest sign of it, is the invitation they long for. It tells them the time has come. It whispers in their ears that you are no longer invincible, that the shield around you has cracked, that their daggers can now find flesh. What was once a single enemy becomes many. Where one man dared not act alone, now 5 men plot together, emboldened by your falter. Where silence once reigned, whispers grow into shouts. A king who appears invulnerable inspires isolation among his rivals, for none wish to risk opposing him. But the same king, the instant he stumbles, inspires unity among those rivals, for now they see not a wall before them, but a gate left open. Think of the general whose troops obey without question while victories are certain. His soldiers fight fiercely, for they believe their leader cannot fail. But let him falter once, let him retreat or hesitate, and suddenly his men question his judgment. Some lose heart, some flee, and worst of all, some begin to dream of desertion to the enemy's camp. Soldiers who once stood shoulder to shoulder now fracture, and enemies grow not only outside his camp, but within it. So it is with all forms of power. The moment you falter, rebellion grows both from your rivals and from those you thought loyal. The minister who smiled at you yesterday begins to whisper against you today. The ally who pledged undying loyalty begins to explore other alliances. The subjects who cheered your name now mutter doubts. Weakness does not simply invite attack, it multiplies it. A ruler must therefore understand that his enemies are like seeds scattered across the earth. While he is strong, those seeds remain dormant, buried in silence. But the reign of weakness awakens them. Suddenly they sprout together, spreading quickly, overwhelming the soil. By the time the ruler realizes how many enemies he has created through one falter, the field has already grown wild with opposition. Power, then, is not simply the ability to command. It is the constant suppression of your enemy's courage. It is the ability to make them fear the price of opposing you. But once that fear is gone, once your falter reveals that you are not beyond defeat, they will come for you not one by one, but all at once. Every ruler, no matter how formidable, carries weakness within. No man is free from doubt, no throne is without cracks, no fortress without hidden vulnerabilities. Yet the difference between those who endure and those who collapse is not the absence of weakness, but the ability to conceal it. To mask weakness is not deception, it is survival. It is the art of protecting the fragile truth with the armor of appearance. A prince may suffer losses in secret, yet he must present himself as unshaken before the people. He may be uncertain of his next step, yet his words must ring with certainty. He may feel fear within his chest, but his gaze must remain steady, as though fear itself bends before him, for men do not judge the inner reality of their ruler. They judge the image that he displays. If that image is strong, the truth remains buried, unseen, and powerless. This is why a wise ruler masters the theater of power. He does not reveal every wound. He does not confess every doubt. He cloaks weakness in robes of strategy. If he retreats, he calls it a calculated move. If he forgives, he frames it as mercy granted from a position of strength. If his coffers run dry, he parades wealth borrowed or borrowed again, for the people care only for the glitter they see, not for the emptiness behind the curtain. Weakness, when exposed, invites attack. But weakness, when hidden, can be transformed. A prince who loses a battle yet announces it, as a tactical withdrawal preserves the image of control. A leader who struggles in private yet commands, in public still commands loyalty. The same weakness that could have destroyed him becomes a lesson to his enemies in caution. They believe his moves deliberate, not desperate. They see strength where there is only survival painted with clever words. It is not dishonor to mask weakness. It is wisdom. For men are not drawn to truth. They are drawn to strength, even if it is only a shadow of strength. And so the ruler who hides his flaws creates a fortress stronger than stone, the fortress of perception. Behind its walls, he may bleed, he may struggle, he may tremble in the night. Yet as long as the world sees him unbroken, his enemies hesitate, and his people obey. A ruler who fails to mask weakness suffers, twice: first from the weakness itself, and second from the perception it creates. But a ruler who hides it suffers only once, in silence, while keeping intact the loyalty of his subjects and the fear of his rivals. For the world does not demand perfection. It demands the appearance of invincibility. Even kindness, when unmasked, can be mistaken for softness, but cloaked properly it becomes majesty. A prince may pardon an enemy, but he must do so in a manner that inspires awe, not pity. He must make it appear that he spares life, not out of hesitation, but out of power, as though he were too mighty to be threatened by the enemy's survival. In this way, weakness becomes a tool, reshaped into the mask of dominance. Masking weakness requires discipline. The ruler must control not only his actions, but his words, his expressions, even the smallest gestures. A moment of uncertainty in his voice, a glance that lingers too long, a sigh in the wrong company. These betray more than armies can protect. The mask must be worn at all times, for the eyes of the world are always watching. The mask of strength also serves another purpose. It confuses enemies. Rivals are never certain whether the ruler is truly invulnerable or merely pretending. This doubt paralyzes them, prevents them from striking too soon, and grants the ruler precious time. For while they hesitate, he regains his footing. While they wonder, he rebuilds his strength. And so the mask not only hides weakness, it buys survival. In the game of power, truth matters little. What matters is belief. Men will serve a ruler who is secretly weak if they believe him strong. They will betray a ruler who is secretly strong if they believe him weak. Thus, the mask is not a lie. It is the very foundation of rule. The wise ruler never removes it. For the moment he does, he stands naked before the wolves, and the wolves do not hesitate. Now you see the cruel arithmetic of power. It is not built on justice, nor on truth, but on the image you project to the world. Strength is sustained by perception, destroyed by a single falter, multiplied in danger when enemies unite, and preserved only when weakness is hidden behind the mask of authority. Men will not forgive you for stumbling, nor will they excuse hesitation. They will overlook your cruelty. They will excuse your deception. They will even accept your injustice. But the instant they sense weakness, you are finished. For power is not lost gradually, it is lost in the single moment the illusion breaks. Therefore, remember this eternal law: to rule is not to be flawless, but to appear unbreakable. Your strength need not be constant, but its performance must never fail. For the stage of power has no intermission, and once the mask slips, the curtain falls forever.